Hi, everybody. I'm Jasmine, co-founder of Uncharted Coffee.
Hi, I'm Danielle, co-founder and chief operating officer of Uncharted Coffee.
We haven't named this podcast yet. So for right now, we're just going to call it like the Sisterhood Podcast. We'll figure out like what it turns out to later after we get a lot of your feedback. But here we are again.
If you have ideas of naming, please let us know.
Please let us know. But we thought today we could talk a little bit about wellness, well-being. It is kind of at the core of like Uncharted, but we really just want to share with you like what it means to us and how we have learned and navigated wellness and well-being. And I say well-being because I think wellness has become this, I don't know, quintessential term, this kind of like a catch-all for everything. It's like your workouts, your trip to the spa, your supplements, it's like all of this stuff. And it's, in my opinion, again, my opinion, so don't come after me. But in my opinion, I think a lot of wellness things can be rooted in just like overconsumption. And obviously, the more that we consume, the more that we have to dispose of, and that becomes a problem within the environment. So I say well-being because it requires you to be more intentional, slowing down, making more thoughtful choices, trade-offs. Do I need this or that? Is it really necessary? And of course, like if you still need it and it's good for you, like go for it. But it's not like I need all the things. I don't need like 20 moisturizers for my face, right? So just being more intentional, which is what we're trying to bring into our lives, which is this idea of intentionality. And so we thought today we could talk a little bit about well-being.
Yeah, sure. I can start a little bit about my journey. I think Jasmine and I, we both probably think about wellness and well-being a little bit differently. When I think about wellness, I usually think about, I guess, sort of like a few core components. One is like my sort of mental well-being, like just my state of mind, and like how do I make sure that my mind feels stress-free, spiritual, just how I connect on a faith perspective. I think about physically, like just how do I feel physically within my body, and then relationally. Because to me, like part of my like sense of wellness and well-being is like how connected I feel with the people that matter most to me and that are important. So those are kind of my I would say four when I think about the state of wellness.
I agree with us, by the way. I'll add one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say food because I do think like
Yeah.
food is medicine. So much of like your well-being is like all the things you said, but I also think there's like a nutrition component. So I
That's true.
digress. I
That's true.
digress.
I will say my happy place is always food and eating. And like whenever I like have good food, it just like puts me in a good mood. So I don't really know where I would put that in like my grouping of
It's like a
things.
flywheel. It's like these five components of your
Yeah, maybe
flywheel. You
food is in the
need
middle. I don't know.
all
But
those
it's
things.
definitely important. You're right. Food. How can I forget? Mentally, one thing I've done probably like since I was very young from a mental perspective that helps me is writing. I keep a journal. I don't journal as much as I would like to now. I used to do a better job of it when I was younger, but I find the ritual I've been trying to get into lately is to either take some time early in the morning while I'm having coffee is to journal and just like process like the day before. How am I feeling? How do I feel this morning? How do I feel about the day? That just really helps me to sort of like mentally check in with myself. I like doing it at the end of the day too, because then I can be more like reflective of the day. Like, how did I feel about how things went today? What stressed me? What gave me joy? And I find that like very centering because especially when I think about the things that brought me like joy or things that stress me out, I can be mindful the next day. Like maybe do more of the things that caused me joy, less the things that didn't. So that's one of the ways I try to like practice on a mental side. Do you want to talk about something else?
I want to ask a question. So
Yeah.
when you sit down and you write things and you feel like you are reflecting on, did it bring you joy? Did it not bring you joy? What do you do when you find, I guess you plan and you hope to start your day in the best way when you like wake up in the morning and journal? How do
Which I'm
you,
not always good at, but doing,
that's okay.
admittedly.
But what do you do? Do you journal at the end of the day when you don't have a good day? Like it's part of the reflection or?
No, so the habit I've been trying to create, this is like a new 2026 habit. So, you know how we all do with the habits and the resolutions and such, but I've been making progress. But I either try to start the day with journal or end the day with journaling. And it's not really like uh, like it has to be something bad. I find just like checking in, good or bad, like how did I feel when I woke up in the morning? Do I feel rested? You know, if I don't, what happened the night before that maybe caused me to not be rested? Did I have dreams and nightmares? Like every now and then I have like really random, crazy dreams that I like wake up and remember. And I feel like because my dreams are so intense sometimes, I feel like I'm not fully asleep because I'm like in my dreams. I don't know if that's a digress. But so I just like in the mornings, it's just more of like a reflection to check in on myself. And then the day is the same. It's like, you know, I have a couple of questions I usually ask myself at the end of the day. Like I'll journal to myself and I'll say, you know, what stressed you out today? What brought you joy? And what do you want to like leave today? What do you want to take with you to tomorrow? And I just write on those questions and just process them. So it doesn't have to be, I try not to let it be driven by how I feel. I think when I was younger and I used to journal, it used to be much more about my feelings and like, you know, something happened that triggered the need to like write. But now I just try to make it a routine practice as a way of checking in with how I am mentally. Cool. What's your practice of what do you do? How do you think about wellness? I gave my definition.
No, I agree with the like 5 points that you mentioned. So things that are very important to me when I think about well-being, I think my order might be a little bit different. From a well-being perspective, I think I start with faith. I'm a strong believer in faith. Like whatever you practice, I just think it's important to practice something, whether you're like Buddhist, Christian, whatever, it doesn't matter. I think it's important to be grounded and recognize that there's a higher purpose for why we're all here. So for me, it's always like faith first. So I try to remind myself like every day to pray and to just practice gratitude. Like no matter how bad things are, they can always be worse. And even though like I'm a Black woman, I have all these, things that one would say are on the outside that people could judge me for or have their own preconceptions, I still recognize that I sit in some form of privilege. And so what I try to do daily is like recognize the privileges that I do have, and just be grateful for them. So I try to wake up every day and say, like, just pause and just thank, God for like what I have and start my day with a moment of gratitude. So I'm kind of one of those people where I believe the glass is always half full. Like even when things get really, really hard, I'm like, well, the glass is half full, it can always be worse. Your cup isn't empty, so let's figure it out. So that's a little bit of like how I try to start. And then second, I would say from a well-being perspective that's important to me is then I would go to like the mental component, like Danielle mentioned. So I do wake up, I make my coffee, as you heard in the last episode. It's typically a flat white. And then I try to sit at the like kitchen table and I like to write like what my to-do list is going to be for the day. And sometimes I do it the night before, but just like really basically planning my day. It's not always like a list of tasks. Maybe there's a few things I need to do, like make time to, I don't know, find a new doctor or plan a trip with my sister. So it may be a combination of tasks or just thinking about how do I want to spend my day. So that's two from like a mental well-being perspective. Like how can I make sure that I'm setting myself on the path for like success? Because you never know what like curveballs are thrown at you throughout the day. So I'm like, how can I at least get my mind right to take on the day? The third that I would say is most important to me is nutrition and food. So I try to live a very like plant forward lifestyle. I do eat seafood, but I don't consume any meat and like minimal animal products, like a little bit of like yogurt and cheese. And so I say all that to say it's been a process that I've been working through like over the last 12, 13 years or so. And what I have learned on my journey with a plant forward diet, kind of a blue zone diet, etc., or I don't want to say diet, but just like a way in which I eat, is, it makes me more mindful to make sure I'm getting the like a balance, like I have a balanced plate. So I try to start my day with something that's nutritious and good for my body. So that would be three. And then I would say four would be movement. I'm really big on like exercise and physical activity. I prefer to work out in the morning just so that it's done. And if I can't get some sunshine, I think it's really important to get that like daily dose of vitamin D.
Right.
And it just helps you like, again, start your day in the right way when you can just get a little bit of movement and do something good for your body because we only have one body. And is that all of them? Am I missing one?
I can't tell you if you're missing one of your top ones. I
I
don't know
think
if top
I touched on faith,
touched
my
on faith,
mental
you touched on
health,
mental, you touched on
nutrition,
nutrition, and you touched on movement.
movement, Oh, relationships. We talked about this, but like interpersonal relationships. So I agree with this. So Danielle and I, as you get to learn more about us, you'll find that like our values, we're a lot alike and aligned in most ways. And of course, we're
We have our
different in some.
differences.
Yeah, we have our differences. But the last one is that I do as part of my morning. So every morning I go, like we talked about, I try to go for a walk. I try to enjoy some time outside. And typically in the morning, I make phone calls because during the day I'm too busy. After the workday, I'm like with the family. So I try to make rounds and call people that I care about in the morning. So that's what I do. Like I may call my parents, my other siblings, friends, whatever, but I typically take time to like build connection and check in with people that I care about. So that's my day or what well-being means to me. Kind of repeating that routine every single day and trying to hold myself accountable to it.
I will say from a well-being perspective, I wouldn't say that I get it right like every single day that I do all the things.
No, I get it wrong.
Certainly in my list. I would say, Jasmine's been a good inspiration for me in terms of like movement and nutrition. Certainly when I was younger, maybe that's because I am younger, I don't know. But there was certainly a period where I didn't really care too much about what I ate. I just kind of ate whatever I wanted to, what sounded good to me. And I think part of what I've had to work on from well-being perspective is sort of retraining myself about what's good. Like a salad can also be good for me as well as a burger. We kind of went and made a lifestyle change together and both became pescatarian, and we've both explored like cooking more plant forward. We stopped drinking milk, we stopped cooking with milk and things like that. But certainly, I think one of the things where areas where she's rubbed off on me is being more intentional about my nutrition, being more intentional about having movement. She's definitely more of a morning person than I am. I consider myself a night owl, and so I do try to routinely work out in the mornings. It works out that way, I would say, majority of the time, but not every day. I will say that. I like sometimes changing it up. Some days I'll do an evening workout class. Some mornings I'll
Tell
do
me about your evening
a
workout.
workout
Share with us what your
in home
workout
gym.
in your class. I want to know what are you doing? Tell people what your like weekly or daily workouts are.
So I try to do a combination of cardio, low impact movement, and strength training. So there's a form of exercise of a group exercise class Jasmine introduced me to called Les Mills Body Pump. It's from, long story short, it's a company based in New Zealand that is global now, and it's a form of strength training where you use low weights, high repetition. And it really gets you tone and fit really quickly. But more importantly for me, when I was sort of starting on my journey, and this was about, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I can't remember now, when Jasmine introduced me to Les Mills Body Pump, and I started doing it routinely. But before that, I didn't really have like a good routine in terms of like strength training at all. I would go in the gym and I would just like.
But what I'm hearing you say is that classes help you to build like a routine.
I wouldn't say classes in general, but certainly this one particular class. I mean, I would just go in the gym before that, grab dumbbells, and the most I knew to do was like bicep curls. I just didn't really know. But Body Pump has introduced me to like, how to do like a deadlift and how to do a dead row and just like different forms of movement and strength. It's given me more confidence in lifting. So I do a lot of that. I try to walk every day. I do try to get the cliche 10,000 steps a day. Most of the time I exceed it. Some days I'm closer to 8,000. It just depends on my day. I
But
do
you
try
have
to
to give
walk
yourself
pretty
grace.
routinely. I do. I agree. Um, and I am, like Jasmine said, we're both trying to be more intentional about our food. And so for me, it's obviously it's a lot to get into a day. That's why I said some mornings I may wake up and it may be more about movement. I may get my movement in that morning, but maybe I don't get the mental in. Maybe I don't journal that morning. I do spend every morning consistently from like starting from a spiritual perspective in my Bible every day. I do identify as Christian. And so I try to read a little bit of like message of faith every morning to just like center me and get I feel like my headspace in the right day to start the day. As a reminder about, how I should treat people and how I should interact with the rest of the world. And just kind of like a reminder of why I'm here. So that's a little bit about how I try to take my approach to wellness. Anything else you want to add, Jess?
One thing that I think is really important that women especially don't talk about is sleep. You know, like I feel like women have learned to just be strong and like fight through it, and we are so sleep deprived. So I just want to acknowledge other people that are probably sleep deprived. I'm also one of those. Not because I don't have the time to sleep. I go to bed at the same time pretty consistently. Like for the most part, I go to bed every day at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm up every day at like 6 a.m. My husband will tell you I hit the snooze button a lot. But all of that to say, I have recognized that I don't sleep as well as I used to. I don't know if it's like perimenopause, which it might be, or my hormones or what, but I
Do
have
you think you're
noticed
more stressed? Like there's more on your mind that's causing you not to sleep?
definitely like as the older you are, the more responsibility, the more problems. So I definitely think that's part of it. But I definitely also feel like there's a lot of, I don't know, I just maybe it is a combination of like what's on my mind. But I just don't fall asleep freely like I used to. So that's one. So I say all that to say, like, one thing I've been doing is taking like magnesium and ashwagandha right before I go to sleep as a way to help me just like calm my thoughts and like settle in. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I wake up multiple times throughout the night, but and so then the rest of my like routine and well-being and all that stuff is like thrown off. So all of that to say is like it's not perfect. And very often I crave sleep and my sleep has not been great and it puts me in a really bad mood when I don't have sleep.
Sleep is so important. Like I said, I'm not really much of a morning person. I feel like I'm a night person who's trying to make myself a morning person. And so my bedtime is anywhere, I would say, in the neighborhood of 10 p.m. to midnight, right? So that obviously affects like what my mornings look like. Certainly the days that I get to bed at 10 are the days that I tend to the next morning get up, have my faith moment, have my journal moment, and my movement moment. And those are the days I feel like I'm especially winning. um, Breakfast too, like most mornings, I'll usually try to throw breakfast in there. If I'm good about my meal planning, I certainly have something prepped and prepared.
What's your hot take on meal planning? Because I feel like it's
I
one
feel
of
like
those
that could be, I
things.
feel like that could be like a whole episode in and of itself. I'll just say this. I meal plan only to a certain extent. I found that when I used to like really intensely meal plan, it just was taking hours of my Sunday. And I just felt like I wasn't enjoying my Sunday and I wasn't resting. So I try to meal plan, but like the day ahead. So whatever I know I'm cooking the next day, that's where I meal plan. Like, can I chop vegetables, prep some things to get them prepared? But I think one of the things that I'm just overall trying to be more gracious with myself about is the need for rest. Like if I have to miss a movement or if I have to miss journaling or miss meal planning so that I can rest. I think for me what is core to like thinking about how are you well is taking the time to rest. And that's something that I learned about myself. Like I struggle to rest. I always feel like I have to go, go, go. Like even when I'm resting, I'm thinking about what I should be doing for my to-do list and to really like practice rest. I think it's just so important. It's helped me feel so much more calm, less stressed overall. So, and with that, I think that concludes today's episode. Would love to hear from you all some of the ways that you're practicing your well-being. How are you taking care of yourself? Share your thoughts. We want to learn from you, hear your hot takes.
And also, I'm curious to hear what your rituals are. We share with you what we kind of do to start and ground ourselves in our day, but would love to hear from you. Thanks for joining.